lack of dedication to his core craft and believing that his core craft is the most important thing, it has disrupted to the team to the point that we're losing. At the same time, he's playing the best ball of everybody on the team. That's the weird shit of having to deal with Kyrie. Yeah. He's playing great.
No, and so my thing, my thing generally is all I want is the best for this team, and I think that Nets fans are really getting a taste of the fact that there are a lot of people on the team and a lot of fans of the team that aren't Nets fans. They are Kyrie fans. When Kyrie leaves the team or when Harden leaves the team, we will never hear from those people again because their logo is going to change, and there's their Twitter avatar isn't going to be Kyrie in a Nets uniform. It's going to be Kyrie in a whatever team uniform, and so. And I think that's something that we're definitely seeing a lot. But look, I found the Kyrie. I read the Kyrie article, and I don't know about you. I was just kind of bummed out. I was just like, this is clearly a dude that has a lot of stuff going on psychologically. He had a humongous tragedy happen to him at a young age that words can't describe what that probably did to him and is still doing to him now. But with all that being said, I also don't subscribe to the whole thing of which some Nets fans really subscribe to, which is well, he's had some bad surgeries in the past, so I understand why he has trepidation with taking the vaccine. No, that's bullshit. There's a difference between getting a second opinion about wanting to get a knee surgery done and taking a vaccine that's been accredited as life-saving by every single legitimate source in the world. And not only life-saving for yourself, but also can save others if you take it yourself. So
right, and forget about that. Let's even say none of that is true, right? I'm not judging Kyrie based off of this vaccine mandate. I'm judging Kyrie based off of everything that he's done since he was here. He didn't let the Nets team look at his shoulder. I'm choked up.
That was a great tip. That was a really interesting tidbit of that article.
Right, but I knew that. I was surprised at how many people didn't know that.
I did not know that.
Or just didn't make a big deal out of it. But there also was the story that came out where he refused to wear the
tracking
tools. The tracking tools for his physical, why?
Yeah, you told me that earlier before anybody, before that was really reported that he was and there was that thing where he wouldn't wear a hat in the team photo in China. This
was in week 1. Yeah. All this stuff this was in 1 week, right before and heading to China or something like that. Look, you gotta love the way he's playing, and because he can play that way, you gotta still hold out hope that when Kevin Durant comes back, none of this matters. My challenge to that is this is not the way championship winning teams operate.
Yep.
Championship winning teams don't go on 7-game losing streaks. They just don't. Nope. If Paul George is out there with a team, they're not going 7 games on a 7-game losing streak. Or at least I've never seen it. I can't even see the Lakers go on a 7-game losing streak, and they look horrible. You can't have Kevin Durant, you can't have Kyrie Irving and James Harden on the floor and lose 7 games. However, it just goes to show how bad the roster was, 1, and 2, how the chemistry between Kyrie and Harden is not working out well. Harden was a -3 the other night. Kyrie was a +7 or something like that. I'll look it up while we talk.
Yeah, it might be even harder. I mean, it might be even harder. It might be even higher. Sorry.
Like, it was something. It was something large, but dude, I just can't see how a team that's going to win a championship is going to shrug off all of this bullshit and win a championship. Like, I'm praying for it. I'm hoping for it. It's what I want. I just don't believe. Where are you at in championship?
So all right, so I think this is perfect. So I like the way we're pivoting here. So if you all right, so Yves, you're in Brooklyn right now. You stop over into Industry City and you sit down with Sean Marks and you're just like, and Sean is like, Yves, like we're thinking of getting some advice from fans and whatnot. I have 3 or 4 questions for you, and you gotta handle them one by one. One, I really don't know what's going to happen with Joe Harris. Would you consider trading him? 2, do you want us to trade Claxton? 3, which rookies would you trade, if any, and who are on the table? What do you want for them? And 4, what other moves would you want to use, whether that involves like the trade exceptions involving Bruce Brown and whatnot? Like, because those I think are like the 4 main topics basically.
All right, I'll answer all those questions in 2 sentences. 1, I do nothing trade deadline. This team, there's no formulation of this team where you go out and trade and you get someone back like Christian Wood. They don't have the assets. They don't have a first round pick. None of the players are that good. So there's I don't see anything out there for them to get that if they sit tight that they can't get at the trade exception. At the cutoff for the cut down deadline. So they're just gonna have to sit down and see who gets cut. And when the buyout deadline hits, they're just gonna have, that's the only way that they can get this team better. They don't none of our players made the all rookie, the NBA all rookie sophomore game. No one knows how good our players. We know how good Kessler Edwards is, but if you go out to like a national conversation about basketball, like Kessler Edwards is not in that conversation, and so Nets don't have the assets. Even if I wanted to do the trades, like Claxton is not seen as like some blue chip, asset. He's not. What if this team is going to correct itself? It's going to correct itself internally, and it's going to pick up some really good pieces at the buyout deadline.
So I kind of agree. I think that if they're willing to spend more money and use the trade exception, I think there are things that there are players who are trying to cut salary or whatever who they could go after for sure.
So let's talk about it.
So for example, I think so. Going off the first question that I asked you, I'm semi surprised that most Net fans are really scared about trading Joe Harris if he's not going to be back this year. I feel like this is the chance to win a title. The dude has a really terrible ankle injury. People were thinking, not like the smartest of fans, but people wanted to trade him last year. The dude might not provide a single thing. It's literally $20 million of salary in a salary cap league that legitimately might be a zero. To me, if you're trying to win a title, you basically can't have that.
I'm not trading Joe, and the reason why I'm not trading Joe is not that almost everything that you said is good logic. I could agree with that, but when I with those thoughts in mind, I get to the end of the table and I say it is just way too valuable for this particular team to have a 3-point champion on it. Replacing him and finding another 3-point threat, not even making the shots. I'm just talking about guy standing on the wing. Do I have to go guard him? I think he's so that asset is so important that unless you're getting something back incredible, I can't trade Joe. I can't trade Joe Harris.
But do you think? But are you basically basing that off of the fact that you think he's that's that important going forward? Because what if that? Because what the issue is that they said that he's getting reevaluated in 1 to 2 weeks. What happens if in 1 to 2 weeks it actually comes out that he does need a second surgery and he's done for the year?
No, I think that potentially could be the case. I'm making this call. I'm making this call knowing that.
Okay, gotcha.
Because I do, like, those are all the things that you have to think of. All of that is sound logic, 100%. But what you're weighing if you tally all that up, and let's say it equals 67 as a random number, right? Then having it next year, having a 3-point champion on a team that has Kevin Durant on the floor, I think it's just so valuable that you would have to punt this season or figure out a way to win without Joe. That's just where I'm at with it. That's my reasoning on why I would say no.
This is what gets me nervous. One of the OG front office / pod Thorn discussions was what do we do about Dinwiddie once the injury happened? And
Mm-hmm.
The Dinwiddie situation was a bit different because he was a free agent. Joe isn't. He's under contract for, I think, 2 more years after this one. So I get that. I'm prefacing that. But, there was always that rumor out there that the Warriors kind of wanted Dinwiddie and were willing to do Oubre for Dinwiddie. Oubre would have helped in the playoffs last year. He would have been a guy that would have helped. Do I think that they were going to win the title if Kyrie and Harden were out for the whole playoffs, even if they got through the Bucks? Probably not. I think the Suns and or the Hawks probably would have beaten them, even if Oubre is your second best player. But I don't know, man. At a certain point, I love Joe Harris as much as the next guy, but I think this team has to make moves for winning now, especially if look, I think you're of the camp that also wants to try to convince Harden to stay. I mean, you might think he's already gone, but if Harden is gone,
I do think he's already gone, but I think they can convince him to stay.
And I think you convince him to stay by winning.
Exactly. Harden. It's not just the players. It's not just that he came here to play with those players. It's like the position or the assistance to Harden being great that James Harden misses the most is a GM that understood what he needed around him to win or to be good. If I'm James Harden and I'm just looking at it through the tunnel vision of James Harden's experience on the Brooklyn Nets, I don't 100% trust Sean Marks' ability to get players. Sean Marks whiffed a lot this summer. James Harden isn't judging Sean Marks in the prism of the prism of that Nets fans look at him as, oh, this is the guy that brought us back from dead.
No, that's a great point.
And built us up. From James Harden perspective, he's like, yo, does Sean Marks know what he's doing? Because he brought in Javon Carter, Millsap. Why am I starting games with a kid named Kessler? Where did they get this kid from? From Pepperdine? Is that a real school?
Whereas the team that he's thinking of going to, sure, you have the Ben Simmons situation, but Daryl Morey's traded Josh Richardson for Seth Curry, which is one of the biggest highway robberies.
Exactly.
You got Maxey over there. You got Thibault over there. You got they got that guy, what's his name, the 3-point shooter Niang, who's been amazing for them.
He may not know of any of that, but he does know when he was in Houston that every year some new really good toy came in, better players than what we're looking at right now on the Nets. So everything is perspective. Everything is how you perceive it. From James Harden's stance right now, he don't really look at Sean Marks as a guy who could finish off a championship team. He might as well go back to Morey, who he knows will at least find some other pieces if they trade away stuff. Is that a crazy thought, Sam?
No, I don't think so. It is at all. So I want to ask you though, because you touched on it. So where are you at right now with Claxton?
It's the same.